to your knowledge, has there been any change in policy that you have been instructed to adhere to regarding how to deal with lawfully armed citizens since June 24th, 2018?
Since the incident,
Yes,
we did have our quarterly training, which did focus on the incident.
Okay. And what were you told in that quarterly training?
Basically, the laws on that statute reference hunting, fishing. You are allowed to openly carry.
Okay.
It is allowed.
Were you told that you should continue to investigate every case where you see somebody open carrying?
Objection, the form of the question.
You were either told to continue investigating every one of those cases, or you were told not to continue. What were you told?
Objection, the form of the question.
If an officer sees something suspicious, or if we get a call, we'll investigate it.
Okay. And so you were told that if an officer sees something suspicious, or y'all get a call, you will investigate.
Yes.
And based on your prior testimony, if you're investigating a person with a gun, you're going to take it away from them, right?
Correct.
Okay.
For the time being, until the investigation's over.
Have you received any training or instruction about whether you have to have a reasonable suspicion that they are a felon prior to detaining them to conduct a background check?
Objection, the form of the question.
It's kind of hard to tell if anybody's a felon unless they're a known felon by someone. I won't know that until a records check.
So does that authorize you to stop and detain any person you see with a gun so that you can make that determination?
If they're open carrying without a fishing pole, yeah.
Okay. What if they're open carrying with a fishing pole?
It have to see the circumstances. Are they fishing? Or are they walking down Lincoln Road with a fishing pole? Two different scenarios.
So if you saw a person on South Point Pier today with a fishing pole, openly carrying, would you walk up and ask them for ID?
I may confront them and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Just to investigate a little.
Okay. You wouldn't walk out there with a gun, though, would you? Pointed at.
Objection, the
Excuse
form
me.
of the question.
Excuse me. You wouldn't walk out there and point a gun at them just because they were fishing on the pier.
If they were
Objection,
fishing,
the form of the question.
if they were fishing, I had no reason to believe they were a sovereign citizen or anybody else, but just a normal person fishing. My suspicion level is a lot lower than it was on that day.
Can we agree that pointing a gun at somebody without a legal basis for doing so is called an armed assault or an aggravated assault?
We could agree to that.
Okay. Can we agree that?
Did he object to form?
I think he did.
He
Did you
objected.
object, Rob?
I did.
Okay. Can we agree that unconsented touching of another person is, without legal justification, is the crime of battery?
Yes.
Can we agree that detaining somebody against their will without a legal basis for doing so is false imprisonment?
Yes.
Okay. In this quarterly training, were you told, or were your trainee or the trainees told, that they had done, that there were any errors or mistakes made on June 24th, 2018, in how that situation was handled by the Miami Beach Police Department?
Situation or that incident wasn't talked about, probably because it's an open case. Obviously, it is. So they're not gonna talk about the things that happened that day. Just a general, if you encounter someone fishing or hunting and they're open carried, they're in their legal obligation too.
Okay. You were told that is a lawful thing to do.
Correct.
Objection, the form of the question.
You were told during the training that a person openly carrying while hunting, fishing, or camping is acting within the law.
Objection, the form of the question.
It was reiterated, yes.
Okay. Were you instructed that you should still make contact and run their background to see if they're a felon or other prohibited person?
Objection, the form.
That would have to be on the officer's discretion or the type of call that comes in through dispatch.
Is that what the training people told you?
I don't remember the specifics except for those big key points.
Okay. Do you know if you got a printed material that day for that training?
I'm sure the training unit could provide that at the Miami Beach Police Station.
Okay. The question was, did you get printed material that day?
I don't remember if I did or not.
Okay. Have you been told by any supervising officer that you did anything wrong during that incident on June 24th, 2018?
No.
As you look back, do you believe you made any errors that day?
No.
In the police academy, did you get any training on dealing with law-abiding citizens who were armed?
Who are armed?
Yes.
I'm sure I was, but I can't remember specifics.
You were trained how to deal with people who you needed to take a gun away from in the police academy.
I'm sure that was part of the curriculum.
Was that also reinforced by your work with your field training officer?
Field training officer, quarterly and annual training when it's involving firearms. Any updated legal guidelines, maybe pertaining to firearms, they'll put it out there.
Have you ever received any training specifically regarding the right of certain people to openly carry or conceal carry firearms in the state of Florida, other than the quarterly training you've already told me about?
I can't remember.
Have you ever received any training regarding citizens' right to bear arms?
Yes, because there are citizens can bear arms.
Okay.
If eyes could tell the truth.
I'm going to object to this entire series of questions. Simply fishing under the statute does not vitiate the crime of open carry.
And number two, your legal opinion is not my concern right now about what the law does or doesn't say. I'm asking the officer a question.
You keep representing to him what a Florida statute says, and you're telling him something that's not true. So if you want to keep misquoting the law, you go ahead, but I'm going to make an objection to it.
This is why they need to get rid of qualified immunity really fast.
We're back on the video record at 2:45 p.m.
Sergeant Baldock, whose decision was it to approach these individuals in this tactical formation?
Before, to the best of my recollection, we talked about how we're going to approach these gentlemen before we got on the pier, and we all came to the agreement, we're going to approach tactically with our weapons drawn, safely securing each one, and then once they're secure, started the investigation, figuring out what's going on, why are these guys here, see if everything checks out.
At the time you walked onto that pier, had you been given any information by any person that these individuals had made an aggressive move towards anybody?
No.
At the time you walked onto that pier, had you been given any information by any person that these people were in the act of committing a criminal offense?
No. Other than open carry.
Okay. Which you now know wasn't even a crime.
Correct.
Objection in the form of the question.
With
Object to the form of the question.
with the exception
Take a breath in between, so let us
Gotcha.
object.
with the exception of the fishing or hunting.
So it's your understanding that open carry is a crime unless you are hunting, fishing, or camping.
Correct.
So open carry is also a crime unless you are a law enforcement officer.
Correct.
Okay. So equal weight, right there in the same statute, right?
Correct.
So it's not really an exception as much as it is the law of the state of Florida, right?
Objection in
Correct.
the form of the question.
The form of the question.
So the fact that you believed they were committing the crime of open carry when you walked out there was more about your lack of legal knowledge and lack of your knowledge of Florida law, and not the fact that they were committing a crime, right?
Objection in the form of the question, argumentative.
The form of the question. He wasn't wrong. He was right about the law.
You can answer.
Okay. Repeat the question.
You did not have knowledge that fishing allowed them to openly carry at that time, correct?
Objection in the form of the question.
Object to the form of the question.
At that time, my top priority was officer safety and safety of the public.
Not the question I asked, sir. Madam Court Reporter, can you read the question back?
Question, you did not have knowledge that fishing allowed them to openly carry at that time.
I'm going to object to this entire series of questions. Simply fishing under the statute does not vitiate the crime of open carry. There are numerous other elements.
Mr. Rosenwald, that is, number one, a speaking objection, which we know how Mr. Switkus feels about that. And number two, your legal opinion is not my concern right now about what the law does or doesn't say. I'm asking the officer a question.
Well, what my concern is that you keep representing to him what a Florida statute says, and you're telling him something that's not true. So if you want to keep misquoting the law, you go ahead, but I'm going to make an objection to it.
Okay. So, officer, you now understand that it is not a crime to have an open carried firearm while fishing, right?
Objection in the form of the question.
Firearm.
I understand that, yes.
Okay. But that was not your understanding on the day of this incident, was it?
Firearm.
Join.
You can answer.
My understanding at that moment was that they were open carrying.
And that they were violating the law by doing so.
Correct.
Objection in the form.